Welcome to Pathways, the Big Picture, Part 2. We had Part 1 last month, and we have Part 2 tonight. The event format for tonight is we're going to start off just a little bit of a recap from last time, but it doesn't matter if you didn't attend the first time because you'll still get the entire idea of what this concept is and be able to experience it to the maximum as well. We're going to do that little recap. I do want to offer an answer for a question that came in advance as well. This is going to be the main meat of the presentation, which is the interactive targeted questions. It's going to involve breakout rooms and main room collaboration. More on that in a little while. And then we'll end it with an open question and answer period. So the recap from part 1. We first talked about tools and methods for logging pathway speeches. There's been some extensive follow-up with some members from last time. If you have questions about these updates, feel free to bring that up in the question answer period. As well, we touched on speechcraft skill training projects in the new level 1. There was some concern, where are we going to learn about body language, stage usage, gestures, things like that. Vocal variety, we outlined that, as well as how and why to select a path for study. The big picture. What in fact is the big picture as we're defining it? It is the why behind what we do as Toastmasters. In this context, we are wanting to discover what is most important and meaningful. As well, it allows us to think strategically as a vice president education or just simply a club member. Gives us a chance to help even more fellow members. The question that came in advance, I just want to honor those questions that in fact did come in advance. We got a couple. And I really want to bring that to your attention so we can touch on that together. There are essentially 2 that came in. The first one is, could you discuss the Pathways Mentor Program? I'm going to show you that information briefly. Now, later on, it's going to be a collaboration from all of us, and I do want to take the time to do that on those prepared questions. For this moment, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a drive-by on this question, and then with the option in the Q&A of diving into that further. The second question, which is basically, how do we come up with a plan to help new members get started in Pathways? That came in from a couple of people. Luckily, that is, in fact, one of the questions that we're all going to discuss as a group. So looking at the PDF here, it's called Mentoring in Your Club, Getting Started in Pathways Mentor Program. It's a 1-sheet explanation. It's at the Pathways Learning Center. I'm going to bring you there so you can see where it is and just give you a little tour on this question, essentially. The place that I really want to make sure you know about, in fact, if you haven't been to the Pathways Learning Center, is you can find it at our district website, which is d7toastmasters.org. If you've ever gotten emails from me, at least recently, the past several months, it's in every signature of my email. But if not, this is another way to get there. Once you go to d7toastmasters.org, you click on the Pathways tab here, and then just select Pathways Learning Center. If this is your first time to the Pathways Learning Center, welcome, of course. We have a very important motto. If you remember nothing else about the Pathways Learning Center, please remember this motto, which is helping Toastmasters members one at a time. That informs every decision and every piece of content on this webpage. The way it's designed is at the top of the page is more the beginning level, then progresses into intermediate, and then into more advanced material, if you will. This PDF I'm going to talk about is in the references section in the intermediate/advanced level. You can see I'm just scrolling down. Just past the Basecamp Manager training is this section called Intermediate Advanced Level Tools and Reference Materials. Just on the far right is this sheet. It's just called Mentoring in Your Club, Getting Started, and Pathways Mentor Program One Sheet Explanation. So of course you just click on that to read it. And again, I'm going to invite you to check that out on your own, of course. But just briefly, it lets you know a couple of different categories. One, regarding informal mentoring. Some people say, well, when can I get started helping people in my club? There are actually no requirements to begin informally mentoring a new member. The only suggestion might be just whoever that mentor is, make sure that they have the necessary skills or knowledge to help that member with their questions. An example might be if you're mentoring a brand new member, knowing about the club roles as well as pathways would be good things to have in your skill set as you help that protege. Regarding the Pathways Mentor Program, which is what was directly asked, I really want to touch on this because so often people think, oh my God, it's this vast thing. How can you even get involved? But the reality is there are 4 projects within the program. The first one literally is read a PDF about what the program is. So however fast you can read that, 10 minutes, whatever, you get to complete your first project in the Pathways Mentor Program. The second one is to complete a survey about you as a mentor and really touches on what do you think that you bring as a mentor for this relationship with the protege, and as well, what are you looking for? As soon as you can fill that out, you get to finish project 2. The first interactive project, project 3, it's just called mentoring. This is an outcome requirement, meaning you help a member with just one Pathways project. If they do their icebreaker and they complete it, you check off that you have completed that. And then the final one, which is advanced mentoring, this is a time-oriented requirement, I should say. And that is where you help them for 6 months or more, regardless of how many paths or projects that the protege completes. But I just wanted to let you know, you don't have to do the entire program. You could literally just do 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of like a try it before you buy it. See if it's a good match for you, a good match for your protege. So please get started. If you want to have a complete technical breakdown of the program, I created a PDF which has actually timestamps. I'm going to show this to you for every topic, hopefully that you might think about the program. And then as well, Dr. Gwendolyn Avington, she was the Pathways Proponents Committee chair last year and continues to mentor me throughout this journey. She gave a video really more on the motivation and sort of a personal testimony. So it's a very personalized video. Just want to briefly show you around these 2 videos. So this is my technical breakdown. Again, you can click on that link in that PDF. And you can see it's just called Toastmasters Pathways Mentor Program with timestamps for topics. Something that is very important, I wish YouTube had not designed it this way, but they did, is in order to get these wonderful timestamps, you have to click on this Show More. So you'll see that just below my name. And all these blue numbers are the topics that you can click on. So for example, maybe you want to know what are the eligibility requirements to join as a mentor within the program. You would just simply click on that and it would load up, right at that time. First of all, if you want to join as a mentor, and then, you're learning about that if that's a topic you're interested in. Regarding Dr. Gwendolyn's video, it's the same exact logic. This is what it looks like. Some nice work there. And then same thing, we got to click on that Show More. And once you do that, you'll get access to all of those timestamps. So the timestamps account for every second within those longer videos. My video is about 43 minutes. Hers is an hour and 9 minutes or so. Any questions on that before we proceed back to the regular slides? Joan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, did I understand you right when you said when you're mentoring someone, they don't have to complete a path in the first interactive mentoring? If they have 3 different paths open, for example, and they just hit and miss on each path, they don't have to complete the path in order for you to get credit for the mentoring them, correct?
Yeah, so let me see if I can condense your question just a little bit. The third project in the total of 4 projects, it's called mentoring. And what you would need to do to complete that project, as opposed to a path, is help them get through one of their own projects. In other words, let's say if you're helping a brand new member, oftentimes the icebreaker is going to be their first speech. So as soon as you help them achieve this, and they have in fact completed their icebreaker project, then you would check it off in your Pathways Mentor Program as a mentor that in fact you completed project 3.
Okay, and I've done that, but then the one other thing that you had mentioned was, I think it was the third part of, or the third question, or the third part on the mentoring, the interactive mentoring. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Advanced mentoring.
Thank you. Advanced mentoring. Yeah. Did you state that the person that you're mentoring doesn't have to complete a path? They can just pick different projects. You can help them for the 6 months, go on different.
Yes. So the way that I organize it in my mind is project 3, mentoring, is an outcome oriented, meaning they complete their project.
Okay.
The project 4, which is advanced mentoring, is a time requirement, regardless of how much or how little they accomplish, whether they don't even complete one more project or they complete an entire path. It's not within the requirements, their achievement. In fact, it's another way to put it is, how Toastmasters, sometimes it's outcome oriented, but other times it's process oriented. It is a process oriented project. Whatever they accomplish in the 6 months would allow you to, in fact, complete that project.
Okay, I get it. Thank you so much. That clears it up completely.
Absolutely. And if we want to discuss it even further, this, I think, it'd be a great one to bring up in the Q&A. So thank you for that, Joan.
Okay.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Excellent. This is now where we're going to head into the interactive breakout rooms like we discussed. And I'm going to ask if you would please choose a representative for each question. We are going to have the same breakout rooms, so I would encourage you to select a different representative each time. Then we'll be coming back to the main room for collaboration. The first question that I'm going to put out to the entire group: how do you help new members get started with Pathways? Again, we're going to have breakout rooms for 3 minutes. You'll be brought back automatically, so there's no issue where you have to learn what to do. Actually, I was a little generous. I decided to make it 3 minutes, 30 seconds. So instead of 3 minutes, it'll be 3 minutes, 30 seconds. You'll be brought back automatically. And let's go right now. Does everybody understand? Any questions? Hearing none, let's jump in. Okay, welcome back. At this time, what I'd like to do before we ask for everybody is I would like to call upon Lori Anderson, who is our District 7 Program Quality Director, to answer this question first. She's been doing a lot of Pathways presentations, has some innovative ideas. Lori, would you like to share for a minute or so what you would like to offer us regarding that question? Big hand for Lori.
Thank you, Dave. I was just discussing that just before we got whisked away from our breakout room. But the easiest way I have found, and I guess that's the quick way to do this, is to just get onto the D7 website and go to your Pathways training drop-down menu And it's all right there, start to finish for new members. It's got the icebreaker fillable sheet. It's got the navigator, and it's very straightforward. If they've never logged in to Toastmasters International, I'm able to give them their member number and get them logged in and then get them set up through Pathways. So your site, Dave, has been utilized, and I find it very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Big hand for Lori. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Excellent. At this point, I would love to hear, we don't have time to get to everybody's group, but we have time for at least, one or two. Who would like to jump in next? And Madam Chatmaster, could you let us know who has their hand up to jump in as the volunteer? Emily, would you like to share what came up for you and your group?
Sure. Well, Lori already got a head start by sharing her thoughts because she was in our group. But one of the things that we talked about was whenever a new member or even an existing member that maybe hasn't started in Pathways or hasn't been to it in a while, joins our Toastmasters club, the VPE will sit them down and run through a training. Usually it's either a one-on-one or a one-on a small group, and help people log in, explain the difference between this home site and the Toastmasters site. And once that initial training is done and have them set up and they make sure they can log in, then a mentor is assigned within the club, usually a more experienced Toastmaster, to help them through their first several roles, if not their first several speeches as well.
Excellent. Big hand for Emily. Say, first of all, if I could give credit to Lori, she gave me a bit of an idea regarding these pathways, helping brand new members with pathways. The first thing she mentioned was go to the Pathways Learning Center in our conversation, which I completely agree. And there are a couple of PDFs, which I'm going to show you in a moment, which she has mentioned that she has used. And then secondly, when she gives a club presentation, here is a really cool idea. She literally gets people signed up at the session. Like if they haven't chosen a path, they choose a path and get started at that session. I thought that was brilliant. And then the third and final aspect was that she makes sure that if anybody has follow-up questions, they have a way to answer or get those questions answered one-on-one. So I think that was brilliant. Thank you for that, Lori and Emily. Just to more reiterate what we were just talking about here, the PDF that Lori mentioned, it's just called Toastmasters Level 1 Start to Finish for new members. And then I do want to bring your attention, which is just called New Member Orientation at the website. Ironically, I think Emily just pretty much told us about that, but I just want to briefly bring you there so that we can make that explicit. So here we are at the Pathways Learning Center. I'm going to bring us to the top. This is the beginning section to show you this PDF. So this again is just called Toastmasters Level 1 Start to Finish for new members. What it does is it opens up sort of a table of contents for that brand new member. For example, they literally just got the email from Toastmasters. Okay, what do I do? It allows them to learn how to create and authenticate their Toastmasters account, how to log in, how to select a path, and it's literally like arrows here, click there. Every single step is laid out, as well as the basics that you need, such as completing a project, getting around with navigation basics, getting your icebreaker completed. And then finally, once you've done all your level 1 projects, how to complete a level. I copied what Toastmasters International said, but then based upon questions I've had over the past couple of years, some things are still confusing. I sort of filled in some of those gaps that could take place if people are not clear. So you're welcome to look at this, see if you find it helpful. Some basic definitions that I think sometimes get thrown around, but maybe are not super clear. A few more basic terms within pathways, and then some closing comments that you can check out. As well, to now reiterate some of what Emily was talking about, as we go further down the page, there is a section which is kind of like a further thoughts section, if you will. I called it Club Culture and Pathways Education. And this is new member orientation. This is not meant to be exhaustive, but in fact, just to sort of get some ideas. Assign a mentor to get started. Because I think this is different, right, than just getting someone started in Pathways. There's getting a new member started, and there's getting someone started in Pathways. They're related, but they're not exactly the same thing. So get them a mentor is probably number one, that one-on-one help that Lori was sort of implying. The Navigator PDF, that really is helping them find out why are you talking about the grammarian, and explains all the roles. And then here from Toastmasters International, if you click on this, that'll get you to further meeting roles information. And then generally you want to let them know about your club practices. How do you sign up for roles? That sort of thing. So great work on that. Big hand for the participants. Thank you. Great. The next question we're going to dive into head first. How can you find education award history as a vice president education for one of your members, or as an area director for an entire club? For example, when you're in contest season, we're always searching, have they completed their Pathways level 1 and 2, things like that. Because this, in fact, is Pathways the Big Picture, we need to answer those questions. We want to help those beginners, but as well help those folks that are not only members, but club officers and even district officers. So the question again, how can you find education award history as a vice president education looking for your members' information, or as an area director for all of the education achievements, or for an individual member in one of your clubs? We're going to head to the breakout rooms for 3 minutes, or 3 minutes 30 seconds in this case. You'll be brought back automatically, and let's head out and have some fun. The question again was, how can you find education award history as a vice president education, or as an area director for either a member or an entire club? Let's hear from you. Who would like to jump in to volunteer some information for David, us? What did you have that you'd like to share with us?
Well, it's my technique, and I use it going off the TI Leadership Central. Then you go to the Distinguished Club Program and pop that up, and then off to the left-hand side, there's daily reports. With yes. Daily reports, and you select district number, so District 7 for us. And then it gives you a bunch of different options, but one of the options is education awards for this year, which gives it to you from July 1st. And then there's also education awards history, which gives you all of the awards. The difficulty is not everybody is listed by name. If somebody has their privacy settings yes. Too strict, it's just by their number. So you have to be able to have access to their number. Yes. Member ID. So that's what I use, and I pull all that information together, put it in an Excel spreadsheet, then sort it, make it available for other officers usually.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. I'll tell you, I have lived at those daily reports. I just love that functionality. Thank you. We have time for one more. Lori, anybody else?
Joan has her hand raised.
Okay, let's hear from Joan. Joan, what would you like to share with us?
It's not so much sharing, it's a question. Is that all right if I ask a question?
Yes, sure. Let's see what we can, it might even spill over into my suggestion at the end here, yes.
Okay, should I go in and check to make sure all my information is where I want it, like the privacy settings are all okay? Would you suggest doing that?
Oh, in general. Yeah, that really is up to the member's choice. For example, when I went through my Toastmasters International settings, I tend to lean in the direction of more privacy.
Right.
Now, the problem was when I did that, I remember one year I was supposed to get a Triple Crown award and I couldn't be found. I was like, well, gosh, how come I'm not being recognized for having completed 3 education awards? Well, it turns out because my privacy settings were on, you could only find me by member ID number. So anyway, I kind of wanted to get a little bit more involved in the community at that time. So I switched my setting so that in fact I could be seen. That's what that setting is.
Thank you, because I've been wondering where some of my stuff is too. So, okay,
Yes, yes.
thank you.
That's great. Big hand for Joan. Thank you, Joan. Excellent. I just want to add a little update here. There's a tool that we added to the Pathways Learning Center. It's called the VPE Area Director District Officer Search Tool. My goodness, with a name like that, it better be good, right? So let's see if you like it. I think you will. So here we are back at the Pathways Learning Center. And this, again, just if you're keeping track, is in the intermediate and advanced level tools and reference materials. There's a lot of great tools here for your consideration. But as I scroll down, it's in the middle column. And again, it's just called VPE Area Director District Officer Search Tool. This is courtesy of George Marshall, who's the DTM in District 57. And it is absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to show you precisely how you can find member award information or even what's going on with the clubs. Now, because this is being recorded, I'm actually not going to click on these things, but I just want to bring this to your attention. So here it is. It's really amazing. Somehow George has linked this up with all the public information available at toastmasters.org. So if you wanted to get education awards for a particular member, you would just click on Education Awards by Member, right? That kind of makes sense, I bet. And again, I just want to respect people's privacy, so I'm not going to do that right now, but it really is self-explanatory from there. You type in their member, probably ask for what district. You know, if you're here with us, you're probably in District 7, or if you're in a different district, you would type in that district. But then you type in the member. Now, what if you want to know all the education awards for a club? Well, you go to club name lookup, and it's the links to the awards, their distinguished club program. It's quite a brilliant tool. It was so good that I just simply had to add it to the Pathways Learning Center. I see somebody raise their hand, Lori. Is this something that we might want to address at this moment?
Dave has his hand raised.
Okay.
One of the nice things about the member lookup is you can put in a series of member names separated by comma.
Yes.
And so you can look up a bunch of them all at once. You know, if somebody's getting close to a DTM or something like that, and you want to verify everything.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. Really appreciate that. Great. And again, this is just meant to wet your whistle. We could do an entire webinar just on this tool, as I'm sure you can imagine. All right, we got a third question coming in. What has been your biggest growth opportunity or experience in Toastmasters? Again, what has been your biggest growth opportunity or experience in Toastmasters? This is touching on the meaning. Why do we do this? This is the big picture meaning. We're going to send you off to the breakout rooms for 3 minutes, 30 seconds, brought back automatically. Let's go discover meaning together. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We have time for at least one person to tell us their wisdom about the meaning that they would like to share with us. Who would like to jump in for this commentary? And I'll defer to you, Lori, on who raises their hand.
Eldred has his hand raised.
Oh, Eldred, lay some wisdom on us, please.
Well, I will speak a little bit from what we talked about in our breakout group. We had one person talk about how her biggest growth experience in Toastmasters so far was speaking at TLI and preparing a presentation that instead of maybe a 5 to 7 minute speech was an hour long.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a springboard for her into being an area director. my experience, and I'll go ahead and say it's my experience because you can pretty much figure it out. Because we had two, Lori and I both trio members in our breakout group. I talked about my experience as a club growth director a couple of years ago, the time management and mental management skills I had to acquire to be effective as club growth director or as a more general trio officer. That was quite a learning experience for me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, very, very good. Thank you so much from our district director, Eldred Brown. I don't mean to jump in, but I just want to quickly share with you, and I think it's going to actually piggyback on what Eldred, in fact, just said, which is at the Pathways Learning Center, another one of these modules is something called the Pathways DTM requirements. And some of you may not really know what in fact is required. Well, this is brilliant. It's all in one PDF. The whole thing is there and it's organized so that anybody can understand it. Literally, first thing you do is join as a member. And every single one of these categories, for me, I have found and continue to find an immense growth opportunity. The education, this is really split into a couple of different categories: education, club leadership, district leadership, and then club extension, as well as club support. So just briefly, completing 2 different paths, as well as your Distinguished Toastmasters project, that's the education end of things. Club leadership, that is where you would serve as a club officer. They differentiate between 12 and 6 months. I suspect that that correlates with how often you elect your officers, whether it's once a year or twice a year. I don't want to take a hard stand on that, but I think that was their logic as to why they listed both 12 and 6 months. District leadership, that would be some of the things that our district director just talked about, serving as a district officer for 1 12-month term. Not limited to just one time, but that's the requirement for a given DTM. Club extension, meaning you're reaching out for new clubs. You can be a club sponsor, speechcraft coordinator, youth leadership coordinator. These are opportunities that we're describing, these growth opportunities. Club support, helping a club get started as a mentor or a coach. And then you literally have the VPE submit your DTM award, and you too could be a DTM. We're going to head to the open Q&A. This is going to be assisted by Lori, who is our chat master. And then Lori, if you could hand it back to me for closing comments. We don't have a lot of time, but we have about, we'll say 7 or 8 minutes to get to a couple of those. I look forward to your questions. Over to Lori, give her a hand.
Well, thank you, Dave. Well, let's just go ahead and let David ask his question.
Please.
One of the things I like about the Pathways is it has a subtle training program that you don't even see. It's called project management, and you learn project management by going through a path. Particularly in the leadership roles, because you have to organize a team, you have to get 360 feedback. Those are all essential project management functions, and it could open up a new career for somebody. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. That is a hidden benefit, a benefit we all need to know about. Thank you very, very much. Who else has a question, I wonder? Lori.
Yes. Kathleen has her hand raised.
My goodness, Kathleen Tellery, another DTM, a wonderful Toastmaster. Let's give a hand to Kathleen.
Hi, Dave. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to add on to what David just said, because I think one of the wonderful things about Pathways, and I'll make it a more broad, many of the skills that we learn or practice during Pathways would be great for anybody who has a boss. In other words, to go to your boss, partner with your boss, probably during performance, appraisal season, or when you're setting your performance objectives for the year, and talk about, I'm working on this project within Toastmasters, and this is what I'd like to accomplish, and get credit for it, through your work. Or if you're trying to expand a skill set that your boss thinks you need, or you want to prepare for the next job, sometimes being able to show or prove to them that you're getting that experience outside the workplace can be very powerful.
That is a great suggestion. Thank you, Kathleen. And I just want to give a little plug to a webinar that Kathleen has offered in the past, which I learned a lot from on the D7 YouTube channel. She gave a presentation regarding events for your club. I learned a lot in there. So thank you for your service in our district and your contribution today. Actually, there was one thing that I really wanted to show you. I had to get rid of one of my questions, but I'm going to pop it in now since we seem to have a little bit of time, actually. It is something at the Pathways Learning Center, and I'm guessing that nobody here except Dave Bones has been literally all the way to the bottom of this web page. So I'm going to go to the complete bottom of the web page and show you something that I've been wanting to share with you for some time. It is literally how to contact me for questions if you don't have my email address. It is right here. And if you want to see my picture one more time, this is just some personal acknowledgement to our team. You can check that out. And there's me walking on a path, because that's what we're all doing. We're all walking on this path together. But if you want to contact me through this module, it's just called a contact module, you would type in your name, email address, your message, and the way that they make sure that you're actually a human is you just simply answer this little mathematical question and then click submit. Does anybody have any questions on, in fact, how to contact me for questions by any chance? I've been wanting to share that for months and we finally had time, so I'm glad we finally did that. I actually had to work kind of hard to make that work, so it's there if you would like it. Want to let you know, for further information about Pathways or questions, the event, maybe the most important event I've ever done as far as I see it, it's the District 7 Pathways Learning Center Curriculum Train the Pathways Teachers event. It is for area directors, for division directors, as well as for all current, incoming, and past club officers and leaders. This is really where I take 25 years of teaching and, for my profession, as well as everything that I can possibly offer that I have been offering over the past couple of years, and creating this Pathways Learning Center webpage, having had a chance to learn from so many different Toastmasters at several different webinars. What this is you would sign up. It's a one-day event. It's open to everybody here that fits these categories, and I suspect you probably all do fit that category. On Saturday, April 2nd from 2 to 3 p.m., I'm actually going to put that event in the chat, and you can also find it at the D7 calendar. Secondly, the D7 Pathways Learning Center webpage that we've been at quite a bit for this. Please keep spreading that good word. It's getting around and can always be shared even more. Finally, we have 3 more Pathways Learning Lab monthly sessions left this year. We still have time. They're always on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific. The next one, if you want to think about this or put it in your calendar, is on April 13th. And then after that, those 2 remaining as stated. Thank you so much for your contribution and attending, as well your consideration and continued efforts toward our mission at the Pathways Learning Center and District 7, which is helping Toastmasters members one at a time. I hand control of the meeting back to our presiding officer, Lori Anderson.
Thank you, Dave. As always, a wonderful webinar, and I always learned so much from your Pathways presentation. So thank you so much for that. It is about 7:58. Return control back to Dave.
Oh my goodness. Well, big hand for you, Lori, as well. Thank you so much. The thing that I want to say is just following up on what Lori was sharing, which is she has been offering Pathways presentations, and she's done something that I haven't done yet, which again, I just want to stress, if you have members that haven't signed up yet, she is like the Pied Piper. They just want to sign up. As soon as she walks in the room, all of a sudden people just start signing up for Pathways. It's so much fun. I would highly recommend having Lori come in. Just send her a message in the chat. Is that the way to do that, Lori?
Absolutely, or my email as well, but chat's fine. I will definitely save the chat. So
Excellent. Are there any final thoughts from any members that you'd like to share? Something that you learned at the webinar today, or maybe that you've been inspired that you want to now do? Just curious, not required, but I'd just love to hear your sharing. It looks like, Emily, do you have your hand up?
I did. Just want to say thanks for the Learning Lab. When I first became a Toastmaster, that wasn't really a thing that we had as a resource. And it's nice to be able to point people to and say, look at all the things that you can do on your own time for self-learning. So if you don't feel comfortable coming to people, go here. And it's really nice. And that new tool in the intermediate section, you know, I love that new tool, Dave. You know, I've already used it at least every other day since you told me about it.
Woohoo! All right, big hand for Emily. Thank you very much. Any other closing thoughts or comments from anybody? Love to hear your thoughts if you have anything to share. Going once, twice.